Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Hate talking about money? You're not alone.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with offices in Louisville and Bowling Green. Your host, five-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Over the past 34 years of interviewing thousands of people, one of the most frequent comments I get from savers is as follows: I really feel dumb when it comes to this stuff. Or, kind of in a similar vein, in some cases during my first interview with a potential client, I'll notice on the starter kit that this person is married, and I'll ask, hey, where's your spouse today? And the person sometimes responds with, he or she hates talking about money. Well, welcome to the WorryFree Retirement. And if you're one of those folks that would just as soon undergo a lobotomy as opposed to having to sit down with an advisor and talk about your money, you're at the right place today, because today I'm going to take the worry and angst you have in your financial heart of hearts right now and demonstrate to you why so many people feel the way they do, and that's not wanting to talk about money. And in our case, all of the planning that goes into money and making sure that you have a successful and worry-free retirement. Now, last week we addressed the fears people have when it comes to making financial decisions, and in my view, the reason people fear their financial future is, number one, they don't understand money, and then number two, since they don't understand money, they know that they are going to have to trust someone else to handle it. And then even worse yet, we could add to this, I guess, the idea that they act like they know about money, but really they don't, which creates a whole nother set of worries. Now, we call this whole syndrome being financially illiterate. Now, before we dive into today's show and reveal the 5 steps to helping you become more financially literate, let's talk briefly about this term literate. I'm sure you've heard about it. Our society talks about being literate or literacy all the time. Our schools, they're supposed to teach our kids to be literate. And what does that really mean? Well, literate simply means that you have the ability, the skill, I guess, if you will, to read and write. That's very simple. But you know what? Without the help of someone else, it's very difficult to learn to read and write. So our society, which recognizes this is a very important skill to know how to read and write, they teach us. By the way, kind of digressing a little bit, I used to play basketball. Now, this was years ago with a buddy of mine in middle school. He was a couple of years ahead of me. Very good basketball player back then. I'd kind of lost touch with him, and so had my family. And one of my family members recently runs into this fellow. Again, keep in mind he's my age now. And so this person is talking about, again, how poorly they had done in the job world. Now, my family member said, well, I thought, didn't you play basketball in college? He said, oh yeah, I played Division I basketball. I was good enough to play overseas after college, but since graduating, I just haven't been able to make things work. And my family member said, well, I don't get it. What's wrong? You know, why have you not been able to keep a job? Why have you not been successful in society? Here's the thing. The person, according to my family member, sheepishly looked at him, embarrassingly said, well, to be honest, I never learned to read or write. Now let that sink in a minute, folks. This person went to college, played basketball, was able to get out of college, and can't read or write, and you're probably sitting there saying, well, that's ridiculous, Tony. That's actually shocking that someone would be illiterate after going to college. And I would argue, wait a minute, before we get too judgmental here, every one of you watching this show right now has money running through your hot little hands. You've probably got a 401k, you've got money in the bank, you got to deal with taxes, but I bet you're financially illiterate. Incidentally, according to Pro Literacy, this was a website I went on and checked out, it says that children of parents with low literacy skills have a 72% chance of being at the lowest reading levels themselves. I guess what goes around comes around. And I found the same thing. It's kind of interesting. When I'm talking to somebody and they admit to being financially illiterate, I'll start talking to them and asking them to describe a little bit about their past, about their parents, how financially literate were their parents? How much financial literacy did you get in school? And you know what they'll say? None. Nobody taught me anything. So again, there's been numerous studies on this as well. I'll quote a couple of quick ones here real quick. American families, basically, do they hate talking about money? You bet. TIAA Institute and the Global Financial Literacy for Excellence Center found that less than 1 in 5 U.S. adults demonstrated a relatively high level of personal financial knowledge when it comes to questions about literacy. In fact, they gave them a grade of C. That's not very good. Then you've got FINRA, that's the organization that oversees advisors such as myself. FINRA found that 2/3 of Americans can't even pass a 5-question financial literacy test. So you say, well, Tony, that's crazy, isn't it? The richest country in the world, and we got all these people running around financially ignorant about money. What is the deal? Well, my 34 years in the financial trenches, I can tell you what the problem is. There is a pattern of mistakes that savers are making. In fact, I've seen 5 very common mistakes that, in my view, are literally paralyzing themselves when it comes to money and this continual digression and common problem of what I call financial illiteracy. Well, I'm not going to leave you hanging. When I return, I'm going to talk about not only a quick case study, but I'm going to share with you the 5 common mistakes that savers are making in terms of why their financial illiteracy is increasing and how we can get you out of that financial illiteracy trap. I'm Tony Walker. Let me get the whiteboard out. I'll be right back.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Let's face it, the last thing you want in retirement is to be full of life and flat broke. I'm Tony Walker, and for the past 33 years, I've made it my life's mission to make certain that my clients don't go broke in retirement by providing mailbox money for life. Let me show you how easy it is to be worry-free in retirement by creating a guaranteed income you can never outlive. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. We appreciate you joining us. Incidentally, we're in our brand new recording studios in Louisville, Kentucky, trying to work out a few glitches there. We got a new set coming in pretty soon. So again, we're trying to make the show as colorful, for lack of a better word, entertaining, but also very, very informational. So we got Aaron and Matt at the helm here in our studios. By the way, we are open for business in Bowling Green and Louisville. Our new location in Louisville is 8303 Shelbyville Road. And of course, if you're in South Central Kentucky, it's still 2451 Industrial Drive. Well, if you're just now joining us, we're talking about financial illiteracy. And financial illiteracy is literally that fact of you feeling like you don't know what's going on, or that maybe the financial world has made you feel stupid, or that you just really feel like maybe everybody's taking advantage of you because you don't know what to do. Actually, worse yet, you don't do anything because of the fear of just falling into what we call financial paralysis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you 5 common mistakes that savers are making and why they might feel more financially literate. Okay, so we're going to dive right into these. So Aaron, be ready here. I'm going to rock and roll. You ready? We got number 1, and this is a huge one, folks. When people are coming in to see me, sometimes people are saying, well, Tony, I've kind of been, they'll say shopping around, or I've been talking to other advisors, or I've been on the internet. And sometimes after, letting them talk, I'll say, so how's that working for you? And they'll say, actually, I'm more confused than ever before. So the first mistake I think a lot of people make is they're actually getting too much information and talking to too many different people. And the problem is, I don't care if these people on radio, TV, the internet, sometimes they're giving you information that is not clear and understandable to you. And we're going to find out why that is in just a second. So that's the first mistake savers are making. The second mistake savers are making that sometimes contributes to financial illiteracy is not having any clear, reasonable, and specific financial goals that are in writing. Now again, the reason you want your plans in writing is so that, number one, you can communicate those plans to loved ones and to an advisor, and secondly, so that there's something to monitor and track. Let's face it, it's a lot easier to set goals but don't put them in writing. That way there's no accountability, there's no way to monitor your progress or anything else. So again, you've got to put those goals in writing. One of the things I've been trained to do over the years, and one of the things I'm making sure, I've got my favorite son-in-law Trey starting with this, I'm trying to train Trey in this. He's been sitting in a lot of meetings with me and trying to learn this, is you have to make sure you understand what is it the client wants, get that in writing, and then that's when you set up the game plan to help that client. Number three, I probably should have put this as number one. This is my favorite, and I think it's so critical, and that's embracing your God-given financial personality. Let me repeat that. The common mistake savers make, and the reason many of you feel financially illiterate, is you're not embracing, nor do you understand probably, your financial personality. My dad always told me, he said, Tony, don't try to be something you're not. Just embrace who you are, and as he liked to say, run with it. I like that. And that's why I've created the website, the concept of the 3 personalities of money. I even wrote a book about this. Now, if you want to find out your financial personality, there's 3 of them basically. You're either a saver, investor, or speculator. You need to head on over to the number 3 personalities.com, 3personalities.com. Take that quick little test and it'll tell you in about 5 minutes what is your predominant financial personality. And then what you want to do from there is embrace the personality and find out things you should be doing and things you shouldn't be doing. I'll give you an example. My grandfather, who I was very close to, he was the ultimate saver personality. Now, he didn't even have to take a personality test to find that out. My granddad started with Bell South in 1932, retired in 1978. He was a true saver, never owned a stock in his life. And he had something called mailbox money. He wanted something that was guaranteed for him and his wife Hazel for the rest of his life. My granddad intuitively knew he was a saver. He didn't like taking a lot of risk with his money. He wanted safety, security, and certainty. That's the ultimate definition of a saver. Number 4, investing your money in things that you do not understand. If you want to contribute to the feeling of loss of control and worry and feeling like you're a financial illiterate, you just keep investing in things you don't understand. Case in point, one of the problems with this whole mantra of investing in the stock market really began with the advent in 1978 of the 401k. Prior to that time, most people were not investing in things they didn't understand. My grandfather, for instance, as I said, never invested in a stock. He didn't even know what a stockbroker was or what they did and didn't really have access to them. But now, with the advent of the 401k, many of you are just blindly throwing your money into the stock market vis-a-vis the 401k. I know this because when I meet with you, I'll get out your 401k statement and I'll say, hey, why did you pick these particular funds? And you might be going, I don't know, it just looked good, or I don't know, it was like throwing a dart, Tony. I don't even know what I'm investing in. Well, basically, if you're a saver and you're doing that, as the late, great Benjamin Graham once said, you're not a saver at all. You're not even an investor, you're a speculator, and we don't want to be speculating with your money. Also, I want to share this quote with you. This is a cool quote. Put this up on the screen, Aaron. This was from my granddad. He said, Tony, better to have money earning 0% and knowing it's safe than trying to earn 20% and potentially risking it all. Think about that one for a minute. And then the 5th situation is most people, this kind of ties back into having goals in writing. Most people I meet, a gentleman just came in today, incidentally, we're recording the show on July 17th, 2018, just had a gentleman today. came in, he's been talking to other people, and I said, that's fine. And he said, they're going to do this and they're going to do that. Now, this was after I put together a written game plan with this gentleman. He sees everything we're going to do. He sees all the recommendations. He sees exactly what the fees are going to be. He sees exactly what the commissions are going to be. He knows exactly what we're recommending. It ties into his situation. I've already done goal clarification with him, all those things we go through. And I said, well, that's great. I understand these people seem like nice people, probably competent people. But do you have anything in writing you could show me to back up what they say they're going to do? And he said, no, they didn't give me anything in writing. So many of you are continually confused or feel ignorant about your finances, not because you're ignorant folks. It's because nobody's laid this out in simple terms that's manageable and easy to follow. And here's the key. If you're a saver, as you get into what I call the second half of life, the key to this is, if this is difficult to monitor, you will feel like you're no longer in control. All right? So be very, very careful when you're meeting with advisors. Make sure you get a game plan and make sure that game plan's in writing. And before you invest money with anybody, make sure you have a very good feel for the game plan and how it's going to work, not only now, but in the future. Well, last week I kind of touched on, to show you how simple we can make this, but also how someone who is actually a very sharp person admitted at the end of our conversation that they were financially illiterate. They didn't say that, but they basically, when they came in, I'm going to show you the case, came in with an idea of what they were going to do, very confident in it. And when I showed them all the nuances of what they were going to do, they went, oh my gosh, I'm glad we came in to talk to you, Tony. So let's kind of take a look at this. I'm going to set my cheat notes down here. This was a couple, and we'll abbreviate this. This was a pretty long interview, but basically they came in and I pretty much asked them, I said, so what is the goal here? What are we trying to accomplish for your retirement? Incidentally, they were both 62. H and W is husband and wife. And their goals, they said, Tony, we want to go on and retire now. We think we can do it now. But here's the caveat. We don't want to have any debt in retirement. Now, first of all, that's a worthy goal, and if that's what somebody wants to do, more power to them. But there is no one-size-fits-all here, folks. There are situations where actually, I had a couple in last night, we're actually recommending continuing the mortgage on their home for various reasons. But that's okay. We'll stay with the original goal. So these people had, their only debt was on their house, was $150,000, okay? And I asked them what their assets were, and they had a little bit of money in savings, but for the most part, and this happens a lot with a lot of my clients who are savers, total they had $400,000 in a 401k plan. And they were going to go on and take their Social Security now. And I said, well, any reason you're going to take your Social Security now? And they said, well, yeah, Tony. They looked at me like I was the stupid one. They said, Tony, look, if we can go ahead and pay off our home and take our Social Security now, we'd rather have it now, which is fine. There's not a right or wrong answer there till you research it. I said, okay, and then what? Well, Tony, we won't have a house payment. And we have figured out that we can actually live on our Social Security without a house payment. I said, no problem. I started asking questions. I said, but do you realize if you take Social Security now, and again, this is just an example, but if they took Social Security now, and he made very good income. She didn't make quite as much income through their working years, but the Social Security at 62 was going to be $1,800 a month. If he were to wait to 66, it was going to be about $2,400 a month. And they said, well, we know that, but we'd rather have it now. And I said, incidentally, do you have any life insurance? And he kind of looked at me and he said, well, Tony, quite frankly, I lost that when I retired. I had group term insurance, but now I can't get it because I've got health problems. So there's another reason, folks. You may need life insurance in retirement. Don't let people tell you won't need it. It's the one asset that's guaranteed to pay tax-free, cold hard cash when you die. And if you've got life insurance, I can sure do a whole lot better planning for you. But nevertheless, we didn't have it. So I said, well, let's look at this, ma'am. Let's go on and stay with your game plan. So to get the $150,000 out to pay off your home, do you know how much money we're going to have to take out to do that? And she said, I don't know. How much? And I said, approximately $225,000. She said, well, why is that? I said, because of the tax tumor. So basically, to net $150,000, we got to pay the taxes first, okay? Also, if you're drawing Social Security, that's going to increase the tax rate on the Social Security. And then finally, we've taken $225,000 out of the $400,000. We don't have that to invest anymore. That money is gone forever. So again, this plan is not looking quite as good. Then the next step I said, and here's the other problem, if we delay that Social Security and not pay off your home just quite yet, I'll show you how we'll get there, but wait till 66, okay? We're going to draw some of this money now. We're not going to rush to pay off the home. We then will draw $2,400 when your husband turns 66, and here's why I want to do this. Because your husband doesn't have any life insurance, by this time, folks, I'm talking to her, not him. She's the one that's going to have to deal with this if he dies first. Remember, he's had the major heart problems in the past. But at your death, Mr. Jones, your wife is going to get $2,400 instead of $1,200 or $1,800 or whatever that's going to be. So also that would be taxed more efficiently. So this is an example of what a trained retirement specialist has to do. Take the original goal, try to make sure we make that happen for you, but also has to have the expertise to make sure we're not just throwing money out the back door haphazardly. So again, you may be sitting there saying, well, Tony, I don't understand all of this. That's why we're here. We are here to help savers worry less about money, and we're very, very good at making the complicated seem a lot more simple. I would like that opportunity to sit down with you. It's easy to do. All you got to do is go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Let's get started with a one-on-one meeting. There's no cost or obligation. All we're going to do at that first appointment, spend about 30 minutes together and find out your goals for the future and how best I can help you make that happen in a simple and easy to understand manner. Well, what does the Bible have to say about financial literacy? It doesn't say a whole lot about financial literacy, but it says a lot about knowing thyself. I'm going to get me a cup of coffee. I'm going to be right back. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. Annuities. Some people love them and some people hate them. Regardless of how you feel about annuities, one thing's for sure, annuities are the only financial product that can guarantee an income you can never outlive. I'm Tony Walker, and regardless of whether you're thinking about buying an annuity or you have a current annuity that you would like me to review, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Since 9/11, we've written over 2,500 annuities, and we can help you by getting started now. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Our verse of Scripture is actually 1 Thessalonians 1:4, where Paul says, knowing, brethren, beloved by God, His choice of you, or another version says, your election to God. So as we think about this powerful verse, let's go over the 5 common mistakes the savers are making to contribute to the feeling of being financially illiterate. We talked about researching information, too much research and talking to too many advisors. Number 2, not having clear and reasonable goals. Number 3, not embracing your financial personality. 4, investing money in things you don't understand. And finally, 5, not having a simple and easy to follow long-term game plan that you can monitor. Now, of these 5, after 34 years of talking to thousands of people about their money, number 3, knowing your financial personality, to me, is the most important of all. You see, many of you feel financially illiterate because you are following the advice of others who don't know you, nor do they really care how God has wired you financially. My granddad, we talk about him all the time, he was wired to be a saver. He was wired for safety and security. He did not like taking risk, and therefore he was wise enough to confine his investments to things that fit the bill. He didn't even research stocks because he didn't care about stocks. Now, if you're an investor, you may love stocks. That's all well and good. But if you're a saver, this should concern you. This is why my granddad never worried about money. He didn't risk money on things that he did not understand. This is why we created the 3 Personalities website, to give you actual boundaries so that if you know yourself, if you, let's say, are a saver, what's going to happen is you're going to learn to just rule out half to 75% of the information you hear. Now, what good does that do, Tony? Well, if you're not having to spend your time or possibly waste your time on financial information and all the different things you might read out there that have nothing to do with you, why in the world would you spend your time doing that? Why would you read about things that have nothing to do with your financial personality? So back to Thessalonians 1:4. What this verse is saying, to those of us who have placed our faith Not entirely in money, folks, but in the finished work of Christ. What this is saying is we are supposed to know. Listen now, you're supposed to know that God has chosen you and I. The answer, what, as my dad would say, if that's the answer, and that is the answer, if you believe that, if you believe verse 4 here, you go with it. You relish in the fact that you've been chosen. You go with it that your faith is secure. You go with it that He's already said you're a child of God. You're not going to lose your standing. And you clear the deck. You clear your mind of all these other things that would take your focus off that very fact. You see, the world wants to distract you and I, whatever we are, whether it's our financial personality or where we have placed our faith. The world doesn't really like that. I don't think the world wants you to be overly confident because you're more secure in confidence and control than you are with a lack thereof. That's why we're talking about literacy. So once you know yourself, you begin to study things that are accustomed and fit your personality. It should be reasonable and make perfectly good sense. Well, how about you? Maybe you're sitting there saying, Tony, I do feel financially illiterate, and I've never thought about this idea of knowing thyself. I've never thought about the idea of having a written game plan. I've never thought about the fact that I could be taking a lot of risk with my money when I don't even have to. What am I supposed to do now? Well, that answer is real easy. All you got to do is meet with us in person. It's really simple to do. There's two ways to do it. You can either go to our website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And once there, you just click on the Let's Get Started button. That information is confidentially sent to our offices. We will contact you and set up an appointment. Again, no cost or obligation. That appointment will be at either our Louisville office at 8303 Shelbyville Road or at 2451 Industrial Drive there in Bowling Green. Now, that first meeting, all we're going to do is confirm what it is you want, what is it you have, and how we can help you use and enjoy and protect your money. That's it. After the first appointment, we'll have a second appointment where I will deliver to you, or one of our staff will share with you, a free personalized assessment of your situation, absolutely free. And then it's up to you to make a decision whether you would like us to help you as your trusted advisor. So do it today. Go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've certainly enjoyed being with you. You remember now, between now and next week, between now and the next time we talk to one another, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.